So this is the first page of my document. I'm doing a fish alarm because I'm basing it on the exemplar material we've been given by the exam board. And I'm just going to run through the different pieces of work on the page, but what you do need to make sure is that you do not copy any of this work directly, word for word, because that is plagiarism. So I've got my page set up and I've got my title block at the bottom, which we talked about in the last video. I did say that you need to make sure you have everything set out clearly. They're looking for a flow of work. So this is my system planning section. So I've got the title at the top. I'm going to boost that a little bit actually. I've got my title at the top for the section that we're working on. And then I've got the project title, which is the fish bite alarm. First thing you have to do is write down the situation or your project brief, which I've copied directly from the exemplar, which is I wish to design a circuit that warns me when I get a bite when I'm fishing. A buzzer should then sound and a light should also be displayed in case I'm listening to my iPod. And they've listed that as a suitable specification. Now your situation. Your situation needs to include a few little bits and pieces about what you want the product to do. So I've then done a project analysis. It's fairly straightforward. I've written a thing saying what I'm doing because I want to make sure I'm ticking those boxes for showing the flow of the project as I've gone. So first thing I need to do is think about different elements. I've set this up as a web diagram. You could just set it up as a list. The actual way you lay it out isn't important. And I've broken it down into the power supply, the inputs I need to use, the outputs I need to use. Okay, now I've picked this up. Obviously, power supply to electronic system, there's going to need to be one. And I'm listing the fact it needs to be portable, so it can't be 240 volts, and that fish at night, so that rules out solar powered. I'm not going to mess about suggesting that we should have little wind turbines connected to this thing. It is feasible that you could, but let's not make life so difficult. Our inputs, I've got two things. Obviously, we need an actual on-off switch, which is it an input? Isn't it an input? It's a great question. You've got to have it for the entire circuit to work, but it doesn't actually do any of the work sensing whether or not there's a fish there, etc. But we need that sensor as well. Should it be a switch or a sensor? Well, we can look at that later. Within the situation, it said that there had to be an audible alarm, a buzzer, and it also said there had to be a light. So I've got both of those mentioned. And one of the things I'm looking for the buzzer is that it's going to be loud enough. And the other one, the LED, it's got to be sufficient that's going to catch my attention. I've added in additional points. Now, one of the things that I think about the exemplar is that there aren't sufficient specification points because you've got to have at least one specification for every system block that you're going to have in your circuit. Otherwise, you can't test against it. So I personally think you need 8 or 9 specification points. So I've put in some additional points here that I can use for my specification. Whether I want the buzzer to sound continuously or to bleep on and off, whether I want the buzzer to turn off after a set period. So if it is sounding for maybe 30 seconds and then it stops, you could then have the LED carry on or the LED turn off. But is it going to flash or is it going to go on continuously? And the same thing. Finally, how to reset the unit. You know, after it's sounded, I mean, the simplest way is just to turn it on and off again, but am I going to try and do something clever? Who knows? Haven't decided yet. And then I've turned around and said, okay, I'm not going to research batteries because the components we use are going to end up needing a 9-volt battery 9 times out of 10. So I'm not going to spend my time researching batteries. I'm going to research my on-off switch, the switch or sensor I'm going to use, the buzzer and the LEDs. And that's going to be on the next couple of pages. So, next place to stop, Rapid Online.